Rory Souchet. Egypt's military has apologized for the deaths of nearly 40 protesters over several days of violent clashes with police. Tahrir Square was quiet this morning for the first time since the fresh surge of unrest began on Saturday, after both sides declared a break in fighting. Meanwhile, the Arab League is meeting in Cairo, but their focus is on Syria and the imposition of new sanctions. RT's Paula Slier is standing by for us live in the Egyptian capital. Paula, good to see you. So the League is meeting now, right at the centre of the second wave of Egypt's revolution. There are some that might call that rather ironic because they're there to talk about Syria and not Egypt. Is there any chance they'll talk about this recent days of unrest, do you think?
Well, at this stage, we have no indication that discussing what is happening in Egypt is on the agenda for the Arab League. The foreign ministers are currently holding discussions over whether or not to impose sanctions on Damascus. We understand also that the French will be giving a presentation. They'll be appealing to the foreign ministers to accept what they're calling a humanitarian corridor. France is openly calling for international intervention. Now, this has provoked a lot of anger, not only from people here in Egypt and the region, but also from many in the international community, many saying that it is highly ironic that the meeting is being held in Egypt, but the situation of what is happening here is not on the agenda. At the same time, the Arab League is being accused of double standards and of hypocrisy. So much it is making of the situation in Syria, while the death toll here in Egypt stands at some 40 people who have been killed and more than 2,000 injured, and yet no mention is made of this by the League.
Now, Paula, there is a tense truce ongoing at the moment that seems to be holding the clashes from breaking out again. We can see behind you, though, still there are plenty of people in the square, but it seems to be fairly peaceful. What sense do you get of how far this is going to last?
Well, the situation, as you say, is relatively calm, despite the fact that there are thousands of people here in Tahrir Square. In the last hour or so, and now again, you hear behind me an ambulance. So the sirens of ambulances do suggest that there are clashes ongoing and that people are being injured. But we know that the security personnel have erected a barrier of wire around the Interior Ministry building. This was the focal point of so much of the violence over the past straight 6 days. And this is in an attempt to keep protesters back. Now, the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces has issued an apology over lives lost and youngsters killed in the past week. It says it deeply regrets this and it has offered condolences. At the same time, it says that come Saturday, it will release all the detainees it has taken in the last week. But most importantly, the army says it is ready and insisting that these elections that are being planned for Monday will go ahead. Now, these parliamentary elections have caused a lot of concern by people here, many saying that they should go ahead, many saying that they shouldn't. And talking to protesters here in Tahrir Square, there certainly is a mixed reaction. Some support the elections on Monday, some don't. But it certainly has not taken away the discontent and the anger that people here have towards the military. They're still insisting that the military step down and step down immediately, regardless of whether or not these elections are held and regardless of whether or not they are free and fair. You need to remember that while there are tens of thousands of people here in Tahrir, there are tens of millions in the rest of Egypt, and they are alarmed by the fact that the country is suffering economically. They're alarmed by the fact that there are few investments over the past 8-9 months, and they're also alarmed by the fact that the international community is watching very carefully how Egypt manages itself during this very difficult time. So they will want to see some kind of movement towards democracy, but whether or not this will be achieved by the elections on Monday remains to be seen.
All right, RT's Paula Slier live from the heart of Cairo. Thank you.